Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us once again on Nonstop Bhangra Sessions. Your boy Nix, and joining me as usual is our Nonstop Bhangra team, my boy Jiti.
What's up?
Mr. Ravi Sandhu.
Yo.
And today, all the way from Edmonton, one of our special guests, he rocks nonstop with us all the time. DJ VJ is in the house.
What's up, everyone? What's up, boys? Nice to see you guys.
What's up, VJ?
Good to see you too.
Good to see you, VJ. Thanks for joining us. We want to talk to you a lot about what you've been up to, and how many times you've been out to the San Francisco area to spend with us, and all your thoughts and whatnot. And we'll just take it from here, man. Tell us how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, things are starting to loosen up here in Canada, where I live, especially. Things are starting to somewhat get back to normal. I mean, I actually had a gig last week, so we'll probably talk about that. I did my first and only wedding of 2020 in late July, which is crazy, right? So, and things in general are starting to open back up. The gyms are starting to open back up. So, yeah, all in all, it's a blessing. Nobody that I know has been affected by this COVID-19 that's going around. So, all in all, I'm positive, I'm thankful, and keeping my head up. We're gonna get through this.
Good stuff, man. I got Jiti and Ravi over here. Ravi, that's a nice hat you got there, but I'm not feeling it that much.
Hey, you're a Raiders fan, right?
Yeah, I am. So the cool thing about things, just talking about sports, things are starting to get exciting again because basketball's coming back, baseball's back, football doesn't seem like it's gonna stop, so it's gonna come back as well, come in as well this year. So I'm kind of excited about that. Things are looking up. What do you guys?
Hockey's
back.
Yeah.
There you go. I was gonna ask you, what do you guys excited? Like, what's exciting going on right now? Is the sports world for you guys?
Oh man, so NHL is going straight to playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Oilers, they are in the playoffs. We have a strong team, and we're one of the hub cities. So it's Edmonton and Toronto.
Nice.
So there's a big buzz going on in the city right now. I mean, even though we can't go to the games, it's just nice. You're seeing people wearing their Oilers jerseys. Like yesterday was game day, and the actual Stanley Cup final is going to be played in Edmonton. So,
wow.
So that's a nice positive thing that we got going on in the city right now, because Edmonton's a big hockey city. I don't know if you guys follow hockey, but rich hockey history with the Oilers dynasty of the 80s. We got Connor McDavid right now, who's arguably the best player in the world, and I think we have a serious shot at winning the cup. So yeah, things are good.
Exciting times.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really happy that basketball's back. Because I'm a huge Lakers fan, and this is supposed to be our year with LeBron finally. So they tip off tomorrow against the Clippers.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that too. That's coming on TV here. So yeah, big basketball fan as well, and I agree. I think the Lakers have a good shot this year, and I hope they do it right. I mean, it'd be a great, just starting off the year. So in such a sad state with Kobe, it'd be just a nice way to wrap up. Have some positives come out of what's been a challenging year.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, enough about sports, VJ. Tell us how you got into NSB. Like, how'd you link up with Jimmy, Vicky, and Suman guys, and what was that whole experience like for you?
Oh man, so I'd have to back it up a notch. So I got introduced to Jimmy through email, through another Jimmy who's based out of Chicago. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I've never been to Chicago before, but a buddy of mine, a good friend of mine from Edmonton, he actually moved down to Indianapolis. So I decided, I was going to go visit him. I'd never been there. I thought, hey, I'll go visit this guy. Figured, let's see what's going on in that area. Right. It's my first time in that part of the States, and I looked online and I saw that there's a Bhangra party happening in Chicago that Saturday night, and I was planning on going to Chicago anyways. So I actually reached out to Jimmy Singh, who runs Bhangra Tech in Chicago. I sent him an email, and this was back in, this would have been 2012, right? So about 8 years ago. And I just introduced myself. I'm like, hey man, you don't know me, I don't know you. Here's a link to a mix I've done. I'm coming to your party anyways, right? I'm gonna be there. I don't know anybody. if it'd be cool with you, I'd love to just rock an opening set, right? Just because I really don't know anybody there, right? So I'll play an opening set. I even said you didn't even have to pay me nothing, right? I'll just come do it, right? I'm going to be there anyways. And he was totally cool, open to the idea. He's like, sure, man. He's like, we're going to put you on from, I think it was 10:30 to 11:30 was my slot. So I showed up to the club at around 10 o'clock, got on the decks, quickly introduced myself and just started warming up. And next thing you know, people start rolling through, and then the dance floor is just packed and packed and packed. I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, okay, my set's going to end soon. Before you know it, it's 1:30 and I'm still playing, right? They didn't want me to get off the decks. They were like loving the sound, and maybe they were just happy that, hey, this guy's here DJing, we can have fun. I don't know what they were thinking, but the feedback that I got from him was awesome, and I kept in touch with him. We had some good conversations. I'm like, hey man, this is my first time ever DJing in the States. Like, thank you so much for giving me, an unknown DJ from a relatively small city, an opportunity, a stage in a major city in America to do what I love doing, right? To me, it doesn't get better than this, right? And we kept the relationship going, keep in touch, Facebook here and there. And I'm like, hey man, who else do you know? Like, do you know any other promoters? Because at that time, I had only ever heard of Basement Bhangra, and I really wanted to spin there in New York. And he was like, yeah, I know Reka quite well, but getting you up in there it's going to be a bit of a challenge. He's like, however, I know a homeboy down in San Francisco. They run a party called Nonstop Bhangra, and he's like, if you're ever in San Francisco, he's like, I will make an introduction and put in a good word for you. I'm like, okay, cool, man. Like, I'm totally gonna take you up on that. So I hit him up. I was like, hey, I'm thinking of going to San Francisco. I've never been. I remember it was a cold winter back in that must have been about 2014. I think would have been my first time there. 2014, that's right. And I messaged Jimmy. I'm like, hey man, like, I've got some holidays to use. I'm thinking of going to San Francisco. Would you mind doing an email intro to your buddy down there? See if he'd get me on one of his Nonstop Bhangra nights. So he's like, yeah man, no problem. So he did it. Jimmy from Chicago did an email introduction to Jimmy and Vicky and Suman, saying, hey, this guy's legit. Like, he's good shit. Like, get him on and he won't disappoint you guys. I vouch for him. And Jimmy responded back. He's like, actually, VJ, sounds great to me. I have a spot available for you in February if you want to come down. I'll give you a closing DJ set because DJ Scorpio was doing the main event that night. So I said, cool, man. I'm all in. I'm there, right? And that was my first experience at Nonstop Bhangra. That's how I got involved. It was referral-based, word of mouth, and networking, right? So that's how that came together.
Tell us what you thought of the show when you actually came out to Nonstop. Like, your first time walking in and the experience. It's not quite like anything else. Like, it's not your typical Dissy party. No. What was your first experience walking in?
So I was blown away. I thought it was one of the coolest parties I've ever been to. Now I've been fortunate. I've had chances to go to parties all over Canada. The ones in Chicago, been everywhere in the UK. And when I walked in and I saw what was going on there, like, there's an artist, there's a guy here painting. I mean, there's a Bhangra lesson going on. There's visuals. I thought it was so cool, live dole performance. And I really truly thought that it was an experience like no other. And I was just so glad to be a part of it, right? And I was like, wow, this is a defining moment for me. Like I said, unknown DJ from a small city up here and up north, to be able to have my name on a flyer in a major city, like on a major event. It was a little bit overwhelming, to be honest, at first. But once I got on the decks, it was fine. It was fire.
Hey VJ, we all kind of had so Nonstop kind of had two home courts, if you will, Rickshaw Stop and Public Works. Do you remember if it was at Public Works or which venue was it?
Yes, it was at Public Works.
Okay.
Yeah, every event I did except for the last one was at Public Works.
Got it.
Yeah.
We all have this when we play at, for me, for example, I play at Public Works, and it's like, man, this is the home court, that home floor, very energetic. Like this is what Nonstop Bhangra is. And like when Ravi started, he started at Rickshaw. So Rickshaw has that special spot, you know, kind of in his heart for like performing. So that's why I was just wondering like which one, because we all have our like favorite venues, I guess.
Yeah, no, it definitely was Public Works, and even that in itself was, you know, it was a big deal for me, right? Because I did my homework on the venue, and I was like, wow, I think it was that night, the night before, Daft Punk was playing there, or like there were some big names that rolled through that venue, and I'm like, you know, who the hell am I getting to play here? Right? Some, like I said, some desi from Edmonton, Alberta, and I get to DJ, you know, on the same decks and the same platform as some big artists that are known worldwide, right? So that was really truly an amazing experience.
I know you're being kind of humble, you know, small town, small DJ, no one knows you. But in the past like decade or so, you've been around, like traveled quite a bit, man. Like where's some of your favorite places to play other than Nonstop? Because we know Nonstop's #1, right?
Yeah, for sure, hands down, and Nonstop is #1 for sure. And you know, I'd say I love doing the Chicago gigs. Those are fun too. You know, the vibe out there is totally different. When I play out in Chicago, the Bhangra Tech events, even though it's called Bhangra Tech, it's mainly a Bollywood party, right? So, you know, we don't really have many Bollywood. There isn't really much of a Bollywood club scene here where I live. So going out to Chicago is really cool. I get to play a lot of Bollywood in a club setting, which is awesome. You know, I did play out in New York once. That was pretty awesome as well. Yeah, but then other than that, it's the events that take me traveling are mainly Mexico weddings, destination weddings. You know, when I go to the UK to visit my family, they usually line up stuff for me too. So I've gotten to play at some pretty cool venues out in London and Birmingham as well over the past few years also. But yeah, I get around, that's for sure.
So I gotta ask, how'd you get into DJing?
Okay, cool. That's a good question. So, you know, growing up, I used to be really into hip hop music, right? And rap music, just music in general, right? But I think it was hip hop music that really got me drawn towards DJing and turntablism and just seeing people scratch records. I was like, wow, what is that? Like, I want to do that, right? And as I was growing up, I had older cousins that were DJing locally here in Edmonton. So I used to, I started out as a roadie, right? So I used to just go to the gigs, carry the records, carry the speakers, and just watch and learn, right? I would want to just sit in the basement when they'd be just practicing their DJ sets. I'd just be like, hey, can I come listen to you guys for a while, right? So that's where the ideas started going in my head. It's like, okay, well, you know, why don't you try mixing this track with that? And I'd just throw out ideas and they would do them. But it wasn't really until I went to the UK as a teenager. I went there, I remember it was the summer of 1996. I went to the UK and I went to visit my family in Southall. And on that trip, I met my cousins. Like, I met them before, but this is the first time I'm meeting them after years and years and years. And it turned out that they were running at that time, and still one of the main biggest DJ crews out in that area, right? So they're called Sting London, right? Sting Roadshow, Sting London. So my two cousins started that crew, and I went to my first gig with them. I remember this clearly. It was in Birmingham, and you know, I was watching the equipment and just looking at the setups they were doing down there. And this is back then. I was like, wow, this is crazy. But once my cousin got on the decks and he started like mixing Bhangra tracks with hip hop, I was blown away, right? I was like, man, this is like next level. Like I remember he was mixing Safri Boys with Cypress Hill. He was mixing AS Gang with raw bass, It Takes Two. He was mixing Hira with Rex and Effects. He was mixing Apna Sangeet with drum and bass, and all live on records. And I was mind blown, right? And I was like, okay, I need to really take this seriously and bring that sound over here, because nobody that I had seen in Edmonton or in Canada at that time was doing it at that level, right? So, you know, I used to take blank cassettes to the gigs. And before the dance started, like after the first dance, I'd slip my cassette into the tape player and hit record so I could record the gigs. I still have these cassettes to this day, right? And I'd just bring them back to Canada and play them to my friends. I'd be like, yo, you need to listen to this, right? Like, you know, I remember one mix too, he was mixing Gold Blasters with Arrested Development and like just all these different hip hop mixes. And I was like, you guys need to hear this, right? Like this is next level stuff. And that's what really got the spark going. It was like, okay, if you know, just seeing that it can be done. And I was like, okay, if my cousin can do it, I can do it, right? So that's what really got the spark going. So when I came back from that trip, you know, I picked up a part-time job just so I can buy turntables, right? I didn't have money to buy turntables. So I bought my first turntables, bought a mixer, quit the job because I hated it. And then I was like, oh shit, I need money to buy records. So I went and got another job, right? So every paycheck, I remember I used to get paid every Friday, and that paycheck would go straight to, I'd go straight to the record store, just buy vinyl, right? So that was it. That's what kick-started it for me, really.
Are some of those records you bought back then still part of that collection you got back there?
Yeah, 100%. I still have the first vinyls I bought. It's funny, Nick, I could probably go back into this record collection here.
Mm-hmm.
You could put a blindfold on me. I could like pick out any record and I'll tell you where I was when I got it, how much I paid for it, what I did that day, what was going on, how happy I was when I got it, right? So yeah, buying records was a huge part of my progression as a DJ.
How old were you? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I was saying, how old were you when you were a roadie for your cousins and stuff? Like you saying when you were younger?
Yeah, back then I was in my early teens. I'd say maybe, you know, 13, 14.
And they made you carry all their records and stuff in all the crates?
Yeah. I did it with bro, I did it with a smile on my face, just so I could be I was happy to do it. So
VJ, are most of those records hip hop records, or do you got some Punjabi records in there as well?
I have some Punjabi records. Most of them are hip hop records, just because Punjabi records are so hard to get a hold of, right? You know, you can see like in the back here, there's like slots, right? Like you can kind of see like they're sectioned off. I have one section that's all Punjabi records. That's it. Like, so in that whole collection, maybe, yeah, like not even 10% of it's Punjabi stuff.
Yeah, those are definitely hard to come by. I know some of the old school DJs in the Bay, they used to actually get records pressed before gigs. I remember Nix was telling me that you guys used to do that back in the day too.
Yeah, that was the only way to get them. I mean, otherwise you'd have to order from England or, you know, try to figure that out. So we had a couple guys that spun strictly records and they would have to get them pressed, which was just tedious. Like, Serato like changed the game for us. Once that came out, I think Stanton came out with it first, or whatever that company was called, and then
Final Scratch.
Final Scratch was really what changed the game for some people. Like the whole idea. But yeah, the pressing records was just expensive, man.
Yeah, there was. We talked about getting one. Apparently, there was one guy in Edmonton who had one, but just like the cost of doing it was just ridiculous, right? Yeah. So. So I just stuck with buying records, using cassettes, just to.
How did you mix with cassettes? Because we used to mess around with that too. How did you mix with cassettes?
The true answer to that question is we didn't mix with cassettes. We just hit play and stop and play and stop. So I'm not going to pretend that I was mixing with cassettes, because that's. But I do remember queuing up the cassettes, right? Mm-hmm. So before a gig, it'd be like, okay, I need the song to start here. So you take the cassette out, you know, get the pencil, get the cassette right to the spot where if you hit play, it's going to start. So there'd be no delay. So that would that was about as good as we got with mixing or fading in songs that were on cassette.
So VJ, obviously, you know, you're turntablist at heart. You got the techniques back there. You got the vinyl collection. I've seen you. You know, we've spun together, I think, twice at Nonstop, and it's really cool to watch you scratch. You're like one of the better scratchers, probably the best scratcher I've seen like in person. So that's really cool to see that. And I know a lot of times in videos you don't always use Serato. You'll use the real vinyl, which is, you know, you don't see that nowadays, which is I think is totally awesome. But did you teach yourself how to scratch? Were you inspired by somebody, or is that all self-taught, or what?
Yeah, so great question. The scratching techniques were I'd say 95% self-taught. At the time I was DJing, like there was no YouTube, right? There was no social media. There wasn't even internet, to be honest, right? So gosh,
sure,
right? I mean, you know, there was amongst the DJs in the city that I grew up, there was maybe one or two VHS videos of DJ Kubert scratch lessons, right? And I never got my hands on it. So I just started practicing and never stopped. But yeah, no, thank you for the compliment. I think that, you know, it's something that I practice so much, right? And people always tell me, like, they say my scratching's, this or that. And I honestly don't think it's all that. I think I'm getting there. I think that I have a long way to go. But I've also come a long way too, right? So there's guys out there that they're doing next level stuff, right? And that's always the level that I want to get to, and that's what's driven me to keep doing it, right? So yeah, that hunger never went away. Like I still always, people ask me all the, like I tell people, right? I'd rather be able to scratch like A-Track than have $1 million in my bank account right now. Like I wouldn't even think twice. I'd be like, give me those skills. Like I would take that in a heartbeat, right? So
definitely.
When you're so you spin a lot of weddings as well, or not just clubs, or is it primarily, are you doing mostly weddings or mostly
nowadays I'm doing more private functions, so private weddings, corporate gigs, birthday parties, and things like that. I don't really do so much on the club scene, especially where I live. I mean, there's one or two venues that I'll play out as a guest DJ every now and then, and that's it. I don't really do any of the Desi club events up here. All of the club events that I do are mainly hip hop, R&B, old school, like pure non-Desi stuff, right? So it's funny, right? Like there are a few Desi promoters here where I live, in and around where I live, and they'll throw these Bhangra parties, and they'll bring DJs from anywhere and everywhere. Well, I'll never play those events, right? But and the Desi club events that I do, they're in the States. So I always thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, it is what it is.
That's pretty cool that you do like hip hop and R&B type club events up there too. I mean, and just from firsthand experience from watching you spin at NSB, I can see that influence is there, because a lot of times you'll drop like a 2000s hip hop track. I think like the first time I saw you spin, you dropped like Nelly in the middle of a Bhangra set, which I thought was awesome. So, I mean, I guess my question is like, who are some of your like go-to artists when you're DJing, like Punjabi or hip hop?
For go-to artists, man, that's a good question. I obviously there's you have your Diljit, your Sidhu, you have your Drakes and your Rihannas, and your crowd pleasers, right?
Your Babu Mans.
Sorry?
Your Babu Mans.
Babu Mans, yeah, depending on the crowd. It's funny, the wedding I did last week, I did a whole Babu Mans set. But yeah, I find that I do have my go-tos, like especially when I get into those like 90s hip hop sets, like I start out with my Fat Man Scoop and go into the Montel and the Nelly, as you said, Usher and all that stuff. But I usually just start with those and then just see how far I can go with the crowd, right?
So you recently just did a gig, you said, right? Your first wedding of 2020. Yeah. So how did that feel, man?
It felt good. It was a little bit nerve-wracking at first. Just because it was so awkward, right? Like I was in one room, the people were outside. The venue had to keep their numbers strict to certain limits. So it was a bit awkward at first, but once the dance floor got going, it was hella fun, man. Like I had a blast. I had so much fun. And it was a hardcore Desi crowd too, right? So it was so much fun. Like I said, I dropped the Babu Man set, they were loving it. Dropped the Kavinder Tilno set, they were loving it. Like, I was really able to go deep into my Desi crates and bring out some bangers, right? So it was a lot of fun.
Do people have to wear masks out there when they're around other people, or is there like any social distancing? Like obviously there's family, so do they all have to be apart from one another, or what? What's the deal?
Yeah, so they have, I think it's based on capacity. So they were only allowed 50 people in the room, but they didn't have any like set distancing measures. I mean, the food was all served to everybody, so they didn't have like a buffet station where you go serve yourself. So that was different. But yeah, no, masks aren't mandatory. They will be as of August 1st. We just got a news release today. So my city, Edmonton, starting August 1st, you have to wear a mask in all public places. So it'll be interesting to see how that works for events and stuff.
It's interesting, yeah, because out here we've seen a couple DJs starting to get back out there, and a lot of people are wearing masks. The DJs are all wearing masks, obviously, and all the crew and everything, and it's just a norm for us, right? Like anywhere we step out of the house, we have to strap it on right away, basically, and cover up. But you get kind of used to it, right, guys?
Yeah, it's a part of everyday life now. I mean, you can't leave home without the mask. It's just it's like second nature now.
Yeah.
It kind of keeps your face warm too, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. It's pretty hot where I'm at. There's a lot of sunshine where GT's sitting too.
It also lets you know when your breath's on hit, which I don't appreciate, but I guess it's good because then you know when you're resting. So.
Oh, that was my breath. I thought it was the mask that stunk. I was like, this mask stinks. I need a new one. But yeah,
nah, man. My sister's a nurse, right? She always, I was talking to her about it. I was like, yo, I just burped in my mask. And I started screaming. She's like, yeah, we do that every day because we're in the hospital all day long. And, you end up burping or, you just smell your breath and it's just terrible. But you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
So what else you doing nowadays, man? Like are you working? Are you getting into your day job? What's the deal? Are you working from home or?
Yeah, no, we're back at the office. I'm again, like I said, I've been very fortunate this year. I mean, we had to make some tough decisions where I work, and half of our office got temporarily laid off, but I stayed on, so I was one of the ones who has been working throughout the whole, throughout this whole pandemic. So now we're back in the office, and we're getting busy again, right? And I've been saying, for the past 4 weeks or so, it really just does feel like pre-COVID with my work. For those who are curious, what I do for a living is I'm a headhunter. So I go and I find people and place them in jobs for clients who are looking for specific skilled workers, right? So people are hiring again, right? So it's on the way back up. So I'm pretty happy about that.
So how long were you guys working from home for?
We were working from home from March, about 3.5 months. Yeah, 3.5 months we were working from home.
How about you guys, GT, Ravi? Are you guys still working from home mostly, or are you guys going to the office at all?
Yeah, I'm still working from home. Yeah.
Still
we're working from home till December. What about you, GT?
We don't have a set time frame to return, but yeah, since March we've been working. It's up to us. I mean, like I just go into the office here and there to like just make sure, I'll check the mail or something like that. But besides that, there's no, they haven't asked us to go back. So.
Yeah, man. Like, so I decided to just go back into the office about a month and a half ago. And since then I realized like, the first few weeks or months, I should say, of during COVID. Vijay, do you remember how much traffic there is in the Bay Area? Like,
yeah.
So all that was gone when the virus hit and we're all in lockdown. But right now, it's getting closer to like what the traffic used to be, basically.
Okay.
It tells you like everyone's just out and about on the road at work, and things are moving again. However, like even though like virus numbers are going up and stuff, people are. They still got to get out there and do what they got to do, right?
Yeah, it does seem like as numbers are going up, things are still somewhat returning to normal. I was actually in LA this weekend, and just like you said, here in the Bay, the traffic's picked up. In LA, it was a nightmare. And there's restaurants that were open. Even there was one restaurant I went to, they actually took the roof off and made it outdoors, quote unquote, just to get more people in. So it seems like it kind of depends where you're at, because in San Francisco people are staying indoors more, but in LA it's pretty much back to normal. It's pretty interesting to see.
VJ, how's the weather been up there, man? You guys been doing outdoor stuff or what?
Oh yeah, man, it's been scorching hot. It's been nice. It's been 30 degrees, which is what, 90 degrees in the States?
That's pretty hot, yeah.
Yeah, no, we've had some record heat this week, so it's been nice. Yeah, can't complain.
So you do your day job, you're putting in 8 hours a day. So when do you practice your mixing?
You know what? That's my relief. That's my release. I practice as much as I can. Usually at nighttime, when my day's done, when I got nothing else going on, that's when I'll really do my practice sessions. Saturdays during the day, I'll usually just like to play music loud. I'll even go on Instagram Live usually on Saturdays or Sunday. But yeah, I practice as much as I can, usually at nighttime when I shut everything else off that's going on. It's just music and trying to come up with new ideas and new stuff.
So outside of practicing, what type of music do you like to listen to? Just when it's just you chilling or going on a drive, like which artist do you listen to?
You know what? I really can't say pinpoint any artists, but I listen to so many different genres of music. Like especially over COVID, I really started to listen to a lot of jazz music while I was working, while I was just doing things around the house. I listen when I'm in a car. I'll listen to the stuff that I will not be playing at a party, right? I mean, the last thing I want to listen to is club bangers or wedding bangers, like in my car or in my personal time. But yeah, I listen to a lot of different stuff. Again, really been listening to a lot of jazz music, a lot of lounge music, instrumentals. You know, I have my certain artists that I go to. I know that like earlier this year, I was listening to a lot of Kanye West's older, like first albums. You know, and it's interesting to hear some of that material years after it's been released, right? And it's almost like you're rehearing it again for the first time. You know, again, earlier around that time, I was listening to a lot of U2, like some 80s artists as well. You know, I was listening to George Michael. I grew up listening to George Michael and Wham, Tears for Fears, like just total random stuff that I would never play at a party. That's what you'll catch. That's what you'll hear in my car. If you're ever with me, the stuff that you'd be like, "What the hell is this guy listening to? Like, why is he listening to this?" But that's what I like listening to.
So what else have you been doing besides, you know, obviously you're working now, but like during COVID, did you take up any other like fun activities, or you try something different, or what do you do for fun, I guess?
You know what? I really took that COVID time to just get back to basics, right? When it comes to the DJing, and that's why you saw me putting out videos where I'm using the vinyls, right? Using the records, putting out videos where I'm not using Serato, right? I really just went back to the basics. And just really started to hone in on fine-tuning a few things in my DJ game that I felt needed some work. So, you know, working on my cuts. I think my cuts have gotten way better since COVID. I think my mixing's gotten a lot cleaner. Like I was listening to a mix that I made in my car today that I forgot I made it. It was just came up on my phone. And I made it in May, and it was a Desi Punjabi mix with hip hop beats. And I'm listening to it, I'm like, man, this sounds so clean. Like this sounds so clean. So yeah, I really just took that time to work on certain things and just improve and get better at DJing, right? And that's been a consistent theme with me. I've never really taken on the you know, software mixing or production or anything like that. People ask me all the time, like, you know, when are you going to start producing? When are you going to start doing this? And in my mind, it's like I have so much further to go as a DJ. There's so much on these decks behind me that I can't do that I want to do better. That I'm just going to focus on that, and I think that's what's kind of driven me to be able to do the things that I can do now, and will help me get better in the future. So.
What's the rest of your year look like? Do you have a lot more gigs lined up? Are things going to start up again for you, or is it still kind of?
No, it's you know, every single one of my bookings got moved to next year. I had some pretty cool events booked. Some that were out of the country, like last week I would have had a wedding in Romania last week, but that got moved to next year. I had a wedding in Miami that got moved to next year. I think I only have one other wedding left for 2020 on the books, and the rest are all moved to 2021. So yeah, not a whole lot.
When you typically spin out weddings, do you what type of gear do you take with you? Do you use CDJs or do you take the Techniques?
I take the controller. I take the SX3.
Nice.
Yeah, I taking these, it's just too much hassle, right? So yeah, I don't like taking these to gigs because I have had some times where, you know, you run into issues with needles or whatnot, and it's just so much easier to take the DDJs. So that's what I use when I go to weddings. I have taken these out though. I mean, if someone specifically asks me for them, I'll take them, but very rarely.
So do you have a roadie as well that goes out to gigs with you, carry all your stuff, or?
No, that's me. I'm a one-man show, bro. I do my own setups. I do everything myself, right? I mean, of course, with some of the bigger setups, I have people who I outsource that to, but like for your basic, you know, function where it's nothing too fancy, I do it all myself. Yeah.
What about the other DJs out there? Do you see anybody else doing weddings, like going to different provinces, or just, I mean, still staying very active?
Yeah, I have. There's a few local DJs here that I see on Instagram that are quite busy and quite active. So we are seeing those parties get a lot smaller though. Like more often than not, they're in a very small venue or somebody's house or a tent or whatnot. So so there are events happening. It's just I'm really picky and really selective. Like even when things are busy, like I don't take. You know, I'm very selective on the gigs that I take at this point. So, so yeah, that's another reason why I'm not that busy this COVID season. So.
Man, do you guys think like backyard parties are going to be like the thing for 2021, or is it, or even like for the rest of this year? Like, well, actually, my real question is this: like, can you get excited for a small backyard party like you do for, you know, a 500-person wedding reception?
You know, absolutely, 100% yes. I mean, for me, you know, after doing this for almost 20 years, or maybe even over 20 years, before every gig, whether it's 50 people or 500 people, I still get nervous and I still get excited, right? And it doesn't matter what size, what's involved. For me, it's I don't care if it's 50 people or 500 people. I'm there to make them dance and have a good time, right? So. To me, it doesn't matter. I've gotten past that. It's just, yeah, again, I still get excited, still get nervous before every gig, big or small.
Yeah. How about you, GT? I mean, you do a lot of weddings too. Like, you know, would you find it as a difference between like a 20-person backyard reception versus a, you know, 500-person? Obviously size is different, but you know, like your feeling, your emotion when you get out there, man.
I'd have to agree with, you know, VJ. At this point, it's kind of like, man, you know, we get to do a gig. Like we're so excited, you know, like to do, because you know, we've talked about this before. I get that like itch, like at that, you know, usually I quantize it as like a month. Every month I need to do a gig to just kind of get it out of my system almost. And they're so fun. They're so exciting. Like VJ said, you know, it doesn't matter. A small 50-person. I just actually did a couple events a week ago or so, a couple wedding events that were still, you know, the bride and groom still wanted to do them. So even now, those were in the backyard, and I don't typically do a lot of backyard events anymore, but it was kind of like, just wanted to do it because I haven't done any gigs in like 3 or 4 months. So it was really exciting. I mean, it doesn't really matter the amount of people, as long as you do what you're supposed to do and they're having a good time, it's still fun.
So Ravi, obviously, like, you know, you don't roadshow that much, but you're in the studio a lot. Are you bringing in like more recording artists into the studio too, or are you just doing solo work for them?
Yeah, early on, when like COVID first started, I wasn't really bringing people by, but now it's like when if a vocalist is gonna come by, you know, to make sure they've been safe, you know, we'll socially distance and stuff like that. But I have been bringing by a few guys to record. Which has been nice, and it's also given me an opportunity to work on like other projects that I've had in the pipeline for quite some time as well.
So VJ, like, it's kind of becoming second nature for us to like sanitize our hands, wipe down things, and all that kind of stuff. What about you guys, man? Are you guys still like, you know, if someone coughs near you, are you still freaking out, like looking over your shoulder, like, who is it? What's going on?
Yeah, I was like that before, right?
Yeah.
So. You know, it's funny. People at work say to me, they're like, "Oh, this new normal is going to be new for us, but not for VJ." He's like the biggest germaphobe, right? Like every job I've had, I'd always have like sanitizer at my desk. Like, you know, I just think it's good to keep those habits, right? So yeah, no, for me, it's fine. I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm thinking about for you know, the road show for everybody. Like, you know, GT's on the gig side of everything, and you know, Ravi's bringing artists to studio, and you're doing gigs. Like, you know, as the gigs get bigger, because things are getting more normal, like, what can we do? Like, what do you think about doing to like kind of keep your area clean and sanitize, and you know, keep people distant from you? Like, one of the things when people come up to us to request songs all the time, like that, the thought of that freaks me out right now, right? Like, yo, I don't know if I want to be disrespectful, but you're not supposed to come in my ear and be close to me right now. Like, what are your thoughts on all this stuff? Like,
yeah, that's one thing. I did have a challenge with that in my last gig, right? So I did their pre-wedding party and I did the reception, and I made it clear to the client. I'm like, look, man, I need to make sure that people aren't going to be coming up to me. But you know how people are, right? They have a few drinks, all that goes out the window, right? But I think that you know, they are more aware now, whereas before, if you kind of went like this to somebody, hey, stay away from me, and they're drunk, they'd get offended. Now what I noticed is they'd be like, okay, yeah, you know, maybe I should leave this guy alone. I'd be like, look, I will play your track, or what do you want to hear? Here's a pen and paper, just write it down, or here's my number, text me, right? And I'll play it, but please don't be coming up to me, right? So I think for the most part people get it, right? So, you know, but again, you're always going to have those people that have had a few too many drinks in them that are going to not wrap their head around that, right? So that's where it will get challenging.
Yeah, we still have to think of more creative ideas on, you know, how to distance people from coming up to the DJ booth without being offensive, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Still trying to figure that piece out.
Well, one thing, you know, I just had a few gigs. One thing I mentioned to the bride and groom, my clients that I had, is go ahead, give my number out and just have people text me, because rather than them coming up to me every time, I don't have a problem playing anyone's song if it's a good song, you know, but just don't come up to me. And for the most part, they respected that. Obviously, there was, you know, your handful of people that, you know, just think it's like a party how it used to be. But yeah, for the most part, it worked pretty well. You know, in a backyard setting, there's not a whole lot of space, so you're kind of limited there. But yeah, it might be something to for you guys to utilize, I think, going forward.
I want to say about 5-6 years ago, this guy came up to me with an app. Basically, he said, you know, get DJs to load their playlists on here, and people use the app, and you know, you log into the party, and they can request through the app, and basically, in order to get their request a little higher up, they can tip you, and do tips through the app, man. I mean, that might be a great idea to start utilizing now. As we were talking, I just thought about that, because you're talking about having people text you. Just load your playlist on. This kind of gets rid of the whole like, hey, look for my song online because it's the only song that ever existed in my life, but I know you never heard it, but we want you to play it right now. So that'll kind of limit those kind of things too. But oh man, if I remember the name of the app, I'll look it up and I'll see if it's still active. But it might be a good time to develop something like that, where we can get song requests, you know.
Yeah, no, that sounds like an awesome idea, because even nowadays, like 9 times out of 10, what do people do? They do this. They grab their phone and shove it in your face, right?
What do you do when someone does that to you?
I usually just ignore them. That drives me nuts. I hate it when they do that, right? So I'm just like, yeah, I just ignore them. I hate it. Like, that's one pet that I have, is people with shoving their phone in my face when I'm trying to DJ. So.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna start with Ravi. As a DJ, what's one other than, you know, the cell phone in your face? I think we all agree that is a pet peeve. Ravi, name one of your pet peeves as a DJ when it comes to like the crowd or anything?
Yeah, one's got to be when I'm using turntables and people think it's a good idea to throw money on the turntable to tip you, and then it gets caught under the needle, and it's like, bro, like the song's gonna start skipping. What are you doing?
How about you, GT? Name a pet peeve.
There's a lot, but I'll just stick with one. The universal sign for skip this track. You guys ever see that? But they don't know, that person doesn't know there's like 200 people still dancing behind them, but maybe they're not feeling that track, so they're just standing on the floor like, skip this track, bro. I'm like, the people are feeling it, so you're kind of, it's just so annoying.
Or does this ever happen to you guys? You get someone come up to you, usually they're half cut, play a Sidhu track, and you're like, this is a Sidhu track, or you know, they ask for a specific artist while you're playing that artist. Like, does that ever happen to you guys?
All the time.
Yeah, like you can't wrap my head around that one.
I hate it when, like, you know, the vibe is going great and someone absolutely has to say something on the mic right now. And it's just some rando, like, you know, you don't know who it is. It wasn't a part of the program. They want you to stop everything. Either they want you to announce, or they want to get on the mic and say something. Like, that annoys me. Like, I don't like stoppages in the event. Yeah.
Or someone requests a track, you play it. They come back, request it again. You're like, I played it. Oh, I was outside having a cigarette. Can you play it again? I'm like, no, not gonna happen. Yeah, that drives me nuts too. Or when you get out of, like, you say you're doing a specific BPM, you're in a set at a lower BPM or a higher BPM or whatever it is, and then you make a transition out, and someone comes up and they're like, oh, play a track that would have mixed in well 5 minutes ago, but now it's just not going to happen, right? That drives me nuts too.
Yeah.
We could write a pretty long list.
Yeah, I could write a book on this stuff. That's a whole other show for us, man. We could just have like a DJ pet peeve session.
Yeah, serious. Yeah, it'll go on for days, man. But parties in general, man, they get a little. There's a lot going on, man. So people just kind of have to understand, like, hey, man, there's 99 things happening right now. Your request isn't gonna make or break this party. If it does, God bless you. But like right now, like, chill out, basically.
Yeah, I don't think people understand like how hard like our job really is. Like, yeah, it is fun. It is the funnest vendor at a wedding, in my opinion, is being the DJ. But it's hard work, right? I mean, you're doing all this stuff in real time. You have all these people to please. You have a client who's paying you to do something. You know what their expectations are. You have a venue you got to deal with. You got to keep all these things in mind, right? And it's tough, but people don't really see that side of it, right? They just see the fun part, but it's hard work, right? And at the end of the day, it's work, and you're there to create a memorable event for the most important day of two people's lives, right? And a lot of thought goes into that, and a lot of hard work.
So, when you go into an event, like, yeah, obviously you've already met the bride and groom, or the corporate event that you're doing, you already know do you pre-plan your sets, or do you go kind of like just see what's happening and go with the flow, or like what's your way of going about it?
So I usually get an idea as to what they want to hear, what they don't want to hear, what some of their favorite artists are. I have like a questionnaire that I send out to my clients, and that's what are some must-play tracks, what are some of your favorite artists, what are some things you absolutely don't want to hear. I very rarely plan my sets. Like, I'll have an idea as to what I want to do. Maybe I'll create a little crate or a folder just for that night that might have a handful of tracks that normally wouldn't be in my repertoire, that I'd be like, hey, I want to play these tracks. But very rarely do I plan my sets out, like hardly ever.
Do you have the same approach for club nights as well?
Club nights, I go in pretty much every club night. I usually go in just cold, right? I mean, again, I might have that create like one folder of some tracks that maybe I won't come to mind, that I know won't come to mind when I'm playing. Like, okay, yeah, that'd be good. I want to drop that. I'm gonna drop that. Like, I'll drop my handful of tracks. Other than that, I just go in cold and go with the flow.
So, outside of music, I was talking to GT and Ravi about this. Obviously, like, big part of Ravi's life is music, DJing, and studios. He's been in the studio a lot lately. I've been cooking a lot. And GT, are you still doing yoga, GT?
Yeah.
Getting flexible. So outside of music, what else are you doing, man?
Yeah, no, just this year, I just been trying to take better care of myself, right? Being more active, getting back in the gym. I dropped a few pounds, so next time you guys see me, I might look a bit different. I've just been taking that more seriously, right? Just adopting a healthier lifestyle, and as I mentioned before we went live here, like you can cut out the booze, eating better, just trying to just take better care of my mental and physical health, right? So that's making that a priority, as opposed to just going out and doing or consuming whatever, right? So that's been a good change this year for me.
That's good. So no more alcohol. You got any other vices?
No, not at all. No, it just I don't know what it is. I just I thought I'm gonna give it up for a while. We went kind of crazy in Cancun, and when I came back, I was like, oh man, I need to take a break from this. Like, my body needs a break. But just as much as my body needed a break, my mind did too. I just needed to clear my mind and just refocus on a few things. And it was probably one of the best decisions I made this year, was to cut out the booze.
So that was last time was in January that you drank. So over 6 months now.
Yeah, well, I went 4 months with absolutely nothing.
Mhm.
I have had a few here and there, right? But I haven't had more than 3 drinks in a single sitting, and that's maybe 5 times max since January. So
Mm.
yeah, so I haven't been hungover since January. I haven't been wasted since January. That's a nice feeling.
Robbie, what's the longest you've gone without drinking?
Probably a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, during law school. Yeah.
Oh, nice,
I
nice.
wasn't partying, wasn't going out. I was just super focused.
That's good, man. Good for you.
How about you, Jeetha? You ever put a stop to drinking for a long time?
I can't say. Maybe a month or two max. Nothing substantial.
I did 8 months. That was a while back, man. But Robbie, when you were off of drinking, were you just so busy studying that you didn't have to like find any other vice?
Yeah, I wasn't going out. I was just studying. Just studying and working on music. Really, that was it.
I'll tell you like what mine was. Like when I quit drinking for 8 months, I started drinking black coffee and eating a ton of cake.
Wow.
Like I got this crazy sweet tooth, man. Like black coffee and a sweet tooth. Like it was so random. And people were just still all my friends associate me as a cake lover, and it's like I don't really like cake anymore. Like I'm drinking again. I'm fine. That was such a long time ago too. That's why I was asking if you had any other vices fill that area.
Yeah, no, I can't think of any. I've been drinking black coffee now for a number of years, so that's just gotten used to that.
That's just what you're used to. Yeah. I will tell you, I have carried on drinking black coffee, maybe a little bit of cream or milk in there, but it's generally just black coffee since then. Yeah. Well, guys, anything else you guys want to add for Ask VJ while we still have him?
Gotta ask that question. If COVID ended tomorrow and there was a party at a club, let's say NSB, what's the first track you would play in your set?
Oh,
Yes.
damn. That's a good
You'd be
question.
juiced. You'd be juiced, right? You'd be excited.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't know. That's a good one. I'd have to give that one a bit of thought. Yeah, probably one of the Karan Aujla bangers that came out this year. There were a few of them, but yeah, probably a Karan Aujla track for sure.
Nice.
I'm not going to give a specific one, but one of them.
Guys, what do you guys think of the new Diljit Dosanjh album? It just came out today, obviously, so the show won't air for a while, but today's July 29th. July 30th is the day we're recording this. The album came out today. Did you guys get a chance to listen to it?
I haven't heard all of it yet. I've heard a few tracks, but so far, yeah, I mean, it's pretty solid, but I still want to give it the whole thing a listen before I give a real critique.
How about you, GT?
I think I've heard it a few times now. I think there's something for everyone on there. Really good album overall. Hits a lot of different genres. I don't know if it's the greatest of all time album,
No,
but it's definitely nice to hear, stuff with more of our Punjabi instruments. I feel like that's the scene's missing that, or has been missing that the last little bit. So it's always nice to hear Diljit. I mean, he's up there. He's probably the best, if not the best. So.
What about you, VJ? Did you hear it?
I haven't heard it yet. I just heard the one track that he dropped the video for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only one I heard so far, and that was a banger. Like that.
It was, yeah.
Fire track. Love the video. So I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the album.
I think Karan Aujla wrote that one, right? It had a Karan Aujla vibe to that track. Like when I heard it, I was like, "Yo, this is something that Karan would do." And then, yeah, I think that's written by him.
Yeah, and you know what, GT, you touched on something, and I want to ask you guys just, what are your thoughts on the state of Punjabi music nowadays? Like, let's say for the past 2 or 3 years, like, if you strip away the vocals on, even a lot of Diljit's tracks from his last album, or a lot of these current Sidhu tracks that are out there, you wouldn't even know it's a Punjabi track, right? What are your guys' thoughts on the current state of Bhangra music and Punjabi music in general? Do you like that vibe? Do you not? Like,
I'll let Ravi start since he's our producer in the mix today. Like he's actually out there making music. So go ahead, Ravi. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it. There's days where I love it, and there's some days where I'm like, I'm kind of over it. It just really depends. I mean, there's some good stuff coming out. Don't get me wrong. I mean, these guys in India, like The Kid and Proof, just to name two, they're coming out with some real solid hip hop beats. Where you can see like the East Coast and West Coast influence and like the trap influence for people like Snappy. But I feel like it really is missing like a piece of the culture sometimes when they're not using any traditional instruments at all. So I think there's some pros to it, and the fact that they're really coming out with some cool beats that like the younger generation can connect with. But I feel like it is kind of getting away from the cultural aspect of it, which is what initially drew me into Punjabi music. So I think right now there's a little bit for everybody, but it would be nice to see more songs with Dole and them come out. That's what I definitely miss.
How about you, GT?
So I'm, like you, VJ, I'm a big hip hop head. I love the beats, and I feel like they're getting really good from these guys like G Minor's, the new guy that's really good. Intense, Big Bird, of course. These beats are really, really good that you would probably hear rappers on almost. And I genuinely like it, but I don't see a lot of variety. I don't see a lot of depth in like vocals, people telling stories. So that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see, more musical pieces. Like, I know like Big Bird will put in like some sarangi, we're like, oh man, that sounds dope with this hip hop beat, right? So I think even as a hip hop head, I think we need to get back to some of that more desi music, something with dole, something with, dolki or something, or dumbi, like just so we can. I feel like a lot of people are not feeling that vibe right now. Like I love Sidhu and I love Karan Aujla and AP Dillon and all these guys, but we just need more variety. I think we need more complex tracks from every type of genre.
Yeah, I'm kind of like on a whole, to each their own. If you like something, that's great. But one of the issues that I have with music is that the way people feel about it, they want you to feel that way about it. And it's like, it's a very personal thing to a lot of people, right? Like, we're all in music a lot. There's things we play for other people, and then there's things we play for us, right? And in that whole scenario, there's a lot of different variety coming out. So there's certain things that stick out to me. I have no issue with a lot of the hip hop style music coming out. It sounds great. But a lot of the lyrics that come out, in those tracks, they're a little bit disturbing. Like, are we really that type of society? And, is that what we're really promoting for the younger generation to listen to? Not to say that, like old school Punjabi music, there was plenty of stuff talking about Gadasia and Kunde, and, back in the days too, right? But like, the difference was there was a lot of traditional music to it. So it kind of covered it up a bit. And now we're taking out the traditional music with those same type of lyrics, and it's gone straight down just a hip hop path, that more of a gangster rap type of path, and sounds dope, but like it's not like, I don't, it's like, it sounds dope, it sounds great, sometimes I want to listen to it, but it's still like, we got into Punjabi music and playing Punjabi music because of like the traditional vibes, and we're lacking that a little bit now. What about you, VJ, man? Are you bumping a lot of Sidhu Moosewala or what?
Yeah, it's I love listening to it, right? Don't get me wrong. Some of the videos are kind of like, they're a bit over the top. But the one thing that I've noticed, and this really was apparent with this last gig that I did, right? It was, you get the guys that they just want to hear like the Sidhu, AP Dillon, stuff like that. And when you start playing it, they're really feeling it, but a lot of the ladies aren't, right? So, it's finding that balance. I think it's gone to such an extreme sound that, like I said, if you strip away the vocals, it sounds nothing like, it's not a Punjabi track, right? It's you got Punjabi vocals on a hip hop beat or whatever you want to call it beat, and it's a bit challenging when you're rocking a crowd of a mixed crowd, right? To make it work all the time, but yeah, to answer your question, I love listening to it. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's awesome. Just seeing the evolution of Punjabi music, right? And you see the cycle all the time, right? Back from the early 90s when it was, Bali Sagoo was using the, reggae style influence with a lot of the tracks he was producing. then it moved over to kind of, you saw more hip hop beats like in the early 2000s. You went to that phase where there was some UK garage beats in Punjabi music. I think it's just a phase, and it always comes back to the traditional till the next sound comes out, right? But I just think right now is probably the most extreme that I've seen it since I've started following it. But some may disagree, but that's my 2 cents.
I think the other interesting thing is, sorry, Niku, the guys from India want that sound now. Where I think before they had like a distinct sound, a different sound, or each area had their own thing. But now it's like Amrit Maan is coming down to Big Bird or whatever to like get tracks made in that manner, because those are quote unquote Sida or whatever, right? So it's so interesting that everyone's kind of like following that kind of Western lead. That I think Canada is really leading, right? Canada is like the hub now for all this music that's coming out, where UK used to be. But it's very interesting to see. Hopefully we get back to like a this year vibe, I think. But
yeah, and it'll come. It's just a matter of time, right? Like you see that pattern over and over again. But yeah, it's just right now. It's it is that other sound that's like completely non-traditional.
Well, last question from me before we start wrapping it up. Vijay, you're from Canada. How long do you think it'll be until Drake does a track in Punjabi?
I wouldn't be surprised if he puts one out by the end of, I'd say maybe early 2021.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my guess. I think there's something in the works. He's born and raised in Toronto, so he's got to be familiar with that sound and the culture, and I think it is a matter of time. It's going to happen. I would say early 2021 before it's out there.
And if it had to be anyone, it would probably be him, right? Like he just killed it on the Spanish track. He did an Arabic track as well.
Yeah.
Come on, Punjabi's next, right? We're next in line, right?
Has to be.
Rumor mill's been going crazy too, because apparently him and Sidhu Moosewala followed each other on Instagram, so everyone thinks there's going to be some type of collaboration happening there.
And I really hope so, man. I mean, look how long ago the Punjabi MC Jay-Z collab was, right? That was like what, 20 years ago?
Yeah,
almost 20 years ago, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's been that long, and now you have these two biggest artists now. For them to get together would be, it's needed, right? I think that needs to happen, and I hope it does.
Yeah, that would be sick. That would be next level for like our industry, man. It's just would change things around quite a bit. Any last questions for Vijay, guys? Well, man, Vijay, anything for us?
No, you know what? It's been awesome. You guys answered my questions, and hopefully answered all yours. No, this has been great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Give a shout out to our nonstop fans that are gonna be watching this. What do you got to say to them?
Yeah, I miss you guys. I really do. I love you guys. I can't wait to come back. And just thanks for having me back. Over and over again. It really has been a blessing and a highlight for my DJ career. It's been awesome, and I really hope to see you guys again sooner than later.
And thanks for joining us again, brother. And GT, Ravi, thanks for logging on again. Peace out, everybody.
Take care.